the GMC Hummer EV. With the Hummer EV, I was hoping to find a potentially big-selling EV pickup truck competitor. Now that seems unlikely. I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot of articles, and there seems to be one odd detail that most people seem to miss or glaze over. Did they not notice, or did they not think it was important? I'll try to explain it to you and give you my other initial thoughts. Next, on The Tinker Talks. Watts to freedom were they thinking? My first initial thought was, it's expensive. It's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, they could sell it and still make a profit, but it does mean that it's going to be completely inaccessible to the majority of people. If it turns out well, it might provide a bit of a halo effect for EV trucks in general. Sort of a validation of them in difficult situations, especially off-roading. But at that sort of price, you're really more competing with maybe the Mercedes G-Wagon and the Land Rover Range Rover instead of the other EV pickup trucks. Price flex on people or something? If it's attention grabbing you're looking for, there really isn't a design more striking than the Tesla Cybertruck though, right? So, I don't know. The stuff they showed in their release video, which was like a glorified commercial, really showed its off-road prowess, which, you know, makes sense given that it's descended from the Humvee. It was renowned for its off-road capabilities. But at that sort of price and with a nice paint job like it has, won't most people who actually can afford it be a little bit wary about bringing it off-road? Speaking of the paint job, it actually looks pretty cool. I like it. Some people might love that removable roof. Reminds me of some kind of Jeep or something. And of course it has high performance, but watts to freedom? Really? It's like they're trying to compete with the immaturity of Musk or something. One of my biggest disappointments though was that it didn't have a midgate. General Motors, on their Chevrolet Avalanche, had a midgate. It made the vehicle vastly more practical. I used to own one, and I loved that feature. Without that sort of feature, most pickup beds are mediocre in their usefulness at best. Or at least that's how it feels like to me when I always want to haul 4x8 sheets of plywood, or insulation, or drywall especially. I hauled tons of stuff with that truck. I could put couches, mattresses, and all kinds of stuff in there with the tailgate up, which meant I didn't even have to secure anything. I don't know if they're trying to make up for that with their fancy pants tailgate. It's pretty cool, but the one most useful feature definitely seems to be that sort of step thing that folds down. It's just really a big bummer to me that no vehicle currently on sale has anything comparable to the midgate. I have just a slight hope that the Cybertruck will have it, but we'll see. And sure, I suppose you could buy a van or something to do some of that kind of stuff, but I don't want to be that guy in the white van. I live next to a school. Yeah. I remember reading an article where they interviewed one of the guys from the Hummer EV program. And he said they had thought about putting the midgate in there, but they decided to go for a rolling window instead. Let me show you something. Imagine this is the middle of the truck, where the cab meets the bed, and then you put your wonderful sheet of drywall on there, sticking through the window, even if it could fit a full 8-foot-long sheets, which I have my doubts that it can. If you hit a bump, what happens? Crack, right there on the edge. Come on. That's not a substitute at all. I don't know, maybe it would work with just some of the right kind of lumber, like 2x4s or something, I don't know. So it definitely seems like the truck isn't really intended for real work. Otherwise, wouldn't they have provided like a tow rating or a payload rating when they had revealed the truck, instead of a 0 to 60 time? So I guess that means it's mostly an off-road toy. And instead of a midgate, you get 4-wheel steering for crab walk. Except for, unlike a crab, you can't go straight sideways. And extract mode. I doubt crab mode's going to be comparably as useful or practical as the midgate was. I don't know, maybe it'd be useful for parking. Thing's going to be big. And I don't know, maybe it'll be good for towing too. We'll have to see. And as for what bed it does have, I have no idea what size it is. If you go onto GMC's official website and you do Control F to search, you can't find bed anywhere. Maybe it was in some kind of press package or something. But what it does tell me is they're not very serious about anybody actually using the bed for anything important. That's quite in stark contrast to a vehicle like the Bollinger B2, which also looks like it has the midgate feature I was looking for. Problem is, it's even more expensive, and probably not as capable in some respects, but better in others. So enough about that monkey business. I told you there was one weird thing that I had noticed that other people weren't talking about. And that is that only the limited edition, first edition version of the vehicle will actually have the maximum 350-mile range. And they sold out of those in 1 hour, which means even if you had the money and really, really wanted it, they're not going to sell you a 350-mile range vehicle. The top non-limited edition model only has 300 miles listed on their website. I think that's terrible. It drives me nuts when there's some kind of limited edition where you're not just getting something like, oh, some kind of cosmetic whatever, or some kind of special paint color, or some kind of badge on the back, or some kind of extra like luggage, or, anything sensible like that. No, instead they take arguably the most important statistic, the range, and only allow the people who got in the first hour for pre-orders that maximum range. It's baffling to me. Why wouldn't you want your vehicle, the one that the majority of people will be driving, the ones that aren't limited editions, be actually more close to what your competitors are capable of doing? Why put yourself at such a statistical disadvantage? It's absurd. Now, range isn't everything, and fast charging can make up for that if the infrastructure where you're going to drive it is pretty good. But if they're going to be driving it in the middle of truck country, right now the charging infrastructure is pretty crap. It's supposed to charge at a pretty high power, but due to its relative low efficiency, we'll have to actually see what the miles added per unit time figure ends up being. Look, the difference between 300 and 350 miles is only like 17%. But that can be the difference of making it comfortable or making it anxiety-inducing, especially when you're towing. And since this is probably going to be mostly driven by relatively influential, wealthy people, you don't want them stuck on the side of the road towing their fancy toys and going onto Twitter with their 100,000 followers and getting all upset. Again, there's a lot of ways you can actually mitigate that, especially if you're smart and you actually put the effort in, but not everybody's going to be very good at doing that, especially during this relatively early stages for electric vehicles. And if something like that happens, it could hurt the efforts of GM to get their electric vehicles out there and perhaps even slow down electric vehicles being adopted for trucks and things in general. And that would be pretty bad. Look, to see what I mean with the charging infrastructure not being very well available, especially for vehicles that will be using like CCS, like they will be using, go look at like Electrify America. They're the biggest ones. Or onto PlugShare. Filter it down to very high powered CCS chargers. And look at the route between like St. Paul, Minnesota and St. Louis, Missouri. I got a feeling that there might not be enough chargers to like tow a camper along that sort of route. I'm not even sure if the Hummer EV with the 300-mile range would be able to make it without towing anything. It's probably not all that aerodynamic on the highway. I hope its performance surprises me, but I got my doubts. Now the thing is, if they can give this higher range to an edition of their vehicles, then they can give it to the other editions of their vehicles as well. And I'm really hoping they reconsider their decision to make it only available in that limited edition instead within the next like 1 to 3 years or whatever, because it's going to take a really long time for them to finally get down to the lower cost brackets with that vehicle for some weird reason. During that long period of time, I'm really hoping they reconsider and allow the highest end of the non-limited editions to have that maximum range too. So anyway, what do you think? Is that not a real issue? Is you think, oh, 300's fine, they'll build out everything by the time that comes out, oh, everybody will be happy? Or do you think, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous, why wouldn't they sell people what they want, which is probably the maximum range? I guess the market will speak, but we're gonna have to wait like 5 years to find out. What was it, spring 2024? And then you get the cheap one at 80 grand, a whole 10 grand more expensive than the top of the line Cybertruck, which has twice the listed range. Anyway, if you're looking for more insights into this, you can look at the first look videos done by Engineering Explained and Doug DeMuro. I think those were pretty good. And I liked some of the other opinions on Doug DeMuro had one on More Doug, and Sam Alexander had a video arguing against one of the points that Doug made, which I thought was interesting. And then Todd, the Cybertruck truck guy. I'll try to link his video too. He is very experienced in trucks, and you might want to listen to his opinion. Anyway, if you like this video and would like me to continue and like to see more, go ahead and subscribe. You can hit the like button if you liked it. If you thought there was something I could do better, then go ahead and leave me a comment down below, or if you had any questions there too, why not? I might respond even. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.